As a truly global enterprise, our vision is not just global in size. We're global in our perspective and in our drive to deliver a smarter, healthier, and more sustainable world. Our OpenBlue Healthy Buildings is the world's most comprehensive suite of connected solutions. 3 pillars that at Johnson Controls we uniquely combine to power your business. Open technology for healthy people, healthy places, and a healthy planet, while reducing your operating costs, increasing your productivity, and revealing new revenue opportunities. OpenBlue Healthy Buildings enables you to empower wellness and highly productive teams, optimize performance of your building as an asset, driving your green promise and your sustainability goals, while delivering on your business and financial goals as you build a better tomorrow. We have always been in the business of making our world more safe, more efficient, more sustainable. Our OpenBlue Healthy Buildings delivers healthy people, healthy places, and a healthy planet. You can breathe easier and combine all 3 to deliver the biggest impact on your business goals. Johnson Controls OpenBlue Healthy Buildings.
Good morning, good afternoon. Today, between Johnson Controls and CBRE, we are going to talk about this great topic about how do we reopen our workplaces. So let me just start by giving a bit of introduction about myself. My role today is I'm responsible for the OpenBlue products and solutions and commercials for Johnson Controls. I'm based out of Sydney, and with me I have my esteemed guest from CBRE, Mr. Wei Loon. He's the Senior Managing Director based out of Singapore, and his current role is he's responsible for the overall growth and the strategic direction for all the CBRE services, including FM and the principal contracting services line. I'm being privileged because in the past, Loon has worked with Johnson Controls in the capacity of Operations Director, responsible for Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. In that capacity, he was managing close to 32 million square feet of space, with managing roughly 2,500 professionals over a multi-asset class. So the way we are structuring today's next 1 hour is we would love to hear from Loon. He will talk about in the next 15 minutes about how we are opening the world's workplaces, and then I would go and focus about all the different solutions between CBRE and us as JCI, how we are going and solving and giving the right solutions for that problem, and then we will have a quick 15 minutes Q&A. With that, welcome Mr. Wei Loon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Samit. It's a real wonder and pleasure to be here today. And really thank you to Johnson Controls for inviting me over to the discussion today. It's with great pleasure that I share with everyone a little bit about some of our thoughts around how we decide to open the world's workplaces. With that, let me jump straight into the presentation deck to speak a little bit more. In the past 18 months, a lot of us have been living in the pandemic, and obviously this has impacted many of our decisions on how we reopen the world's workplaces. But keeping safe has been always the main priority for a lot of us. Keeping our employees safe, keeping our teams safe, keeping our community safe has been a vital part of our mission at CBRE and for many of you in your organizations. It's also really important that, over the last 18 months, we have been very agile. There have been many changes, and, with many countries going through different stages of lockdowns and many different stages of pandemic recovery, it's always been a challenge in keeping up to this. And this has forced a lot of us on how we evolve and collaborate with a lot of our different partners, with the communities that we live in, with our employees, with our stakeholders, but also with our supply chain partners as well. And today, really what I wanted to speak to you about was really around how this has impacted a lot of our business leaders and a lot of our employees in this space. Here are some 3 key ideas that has been bubbling up, since the last 18 months, and particularly during this time in August. Many of us are getting vaccinated. Many of us are going through our first jabs or have been slated to get vaccinated soon. And this has impacted a lot of how we are all thinking about reopening the offices. There's lots of questions around how, should we be mandating employees to be vaccinated? Should we be mandating other people? And that's at the forefront of many of our leadership teams and many of our employees. At CBRE, we've been working with a lot of our clients around the strategies. Whilst we have not heard many clients mandating this to be a priority, but we are actually seeing a lot of clients educating the employees and the communities that live in leading the vaccination programs. And obviously, we are working along with our authorities that where we are and how this is evolving. But what the pandemic has taught us, though, and has forced us to pivot very quickly, and I'm sure many of you in the past 18 months have heard words like hybrid workplaces, decentralized, the office is no longer the center. All these words have forced us to look at how we evolve, how we actually collaborate, how we actually change the world, the way we work. But clearly, it's also presented us with a unique opportunity, because what this has forced upon us is technology. The technology to allow us to pivot very quickly and to obviously collaborate a lot more efficiently in this space. And that has created a lot of interesting ideas and a lot of innovation around how we look at, your portfolios, how we look at the workspaces and how the design of those workspaces will evolve. And clearly, this is one of the key things where technology plays an important part. Some of the points that I mentioned in the deck, talks about how we look at smart building solutions, how we look at desk reservation technologies, contactless technologies to allow and also enable that as well. And what really this brings up the forefront is how business leaders and also employees are really looking to see how they can work safely. But this also has created an evolution in a lot of corporate real estate teams. And within the corporate real estate space, a lot of executives and teams are thinking about how they are prioritizing costs. Clearly, during the pandemic, many of the workspaces that corporate real estate teams are working on have been vacated, right? And clearly, this has brought up, and obviously, the pandemic has forced a lot of business issues, cost issues upon the businesses. And with space being a primary cost driver, it has created a lot of emphasis for corporate real estate executives to think about how they can optimize costs in their portfolios. But between this as well, this has also created an emphasis on corporate real estate teams to how they collaborate with a lot of different functions. CRE teams are now seen to be, key collaborators with HSE teams, with safety teams, with HR teams, and even now with IT teams on how they create the right technologies, how they bring the right experiences, how they create the right experiences for employees as they return back to work. Likewise, it's also really important to note that the agility that is required upon, that demands on CRE teams, it requires them to really think quickly as they adapt to the ever-changing requirements. But this is also forced upon a lot of different thinking processes and how CRE teams work closely with their suppliers. It is really incumbent upon the corporate real estate teams in the organizations to really be agile and to collaborate really closely with their traditional suppliers and how they transform those partnerships. And also really corporate real estate teams are now recalibrating their strategic business outcomes, whereby they're putting a lot more emphasis on safety, but equally as well as costs. And this has translated into a lot of significant considerations for building operators. So I'd like to share with the teams, some of the key considerations that many of us have been involved in, right? Have been faced off with. Building managers these days have to face with, ever-changing requirements and compliance. For example, I'm based here in Singapore, and we've just exited the lockdown, and there's now been a reduction of requirements. But this could change again very rapidly as the COVID situation evolves. But it's really incumbent upon building managers on how they're monitoring compliance and how they're working closely with their tenants and the authorities and how they are managing and enforcing compliance in their specific buildings. Likewise, their clients and the occupants of those buildings are asking building managers and operators how they are helping them and supporting them in well-being. And this has been a key theme that has come out over the past 18 months. Many of us who have been working at home and have been faced with looking at Zoom, webs and the TV and the computer screens all day long. And this has created a new form of mental stress that a lot of us are dealing with. And now as we return to work, there's a lot more emphasis on well-being. Clearly, the other emphasis is on health, right? And how building managers are now looking to increase and improve the health and cleaning considerations in their buildings. And as the pandemic evolves, how building operators have to evolve very quickly with different building loads that impacts the operating hours of their buildings, the elevated capacities, and other items like that. But also as the pandemic evolves, building managers have to really respond quickly to emergency response if there was a cluster that breaks up in their specific areas. And some of the new challenges that have been faced upon them, such as food delivery, right? How do you create a waiting area for food delivery people? How do you ensure that, you are not congregating and creating potential clusters of infections as well? But these are just some of the considerations that building managers have to deal with as we reopen the workplaces. But keys around this is really 4 key guiding principles. As you've heard me say, what at CBRE is, we are working very closely with our clients, but really what the 4 key guiding principles that guides us are safety, compliance, collaboration, and agility. All these are paramount among all of our clients, all the people that we work with and also with the communities that we live in. And I'd like to turn over to Samit, who will talk a little bit about some of the technologies that help us enable to do that. Over to you, Samit.
Okay.
Before we move to the next session, we actually have a poll question. Please participate in the poll question and let us know your feedback. The poll will be end in 5 seconds. Samit, over to you. Can you share your screen?
Okay. Doris, all okay? Can you see my screen?
No, I couldn't see your screen.
I didn't get the option to share my screen. Can you please send it again? Okay, all good. Okay, we'll get started. So good morning. Sorry for a bit of technical glitch. Thanks, Wilung, for a brilliant overview which you have given us. What I'm going to concentrate today is, as we learned uh, with the onset of COVID and the current climate change, investor policies, and the talent engagement, all these things have accelerated the focus around the resiliency, health, and sustainability. So as you heard Wilung talk about, right, he talked about a couple of things in the first compartment, right? When we talk about employee and tenant experience, the elements about parking access, the food delivery, all that element comes under that key bucket, right? So suddenly what we are finding right now, all our customers globally are going and talking the importance with this new reopening our offices around the workplace experiences, right? How we can create these new experiences which are more focused on how we can go and drive the occupant needs, which are very dynamic in nature and which helps us in acquiring and retaining our best talents, right? So that's one of the key elements which we are seeing a huge focus in the post-COVID world as we go back into our offices. The second key element, if we see as the key trend, is the focus around the business productivity, right? So business productivity, clients are going and talking about, how we can go, and you heard Wilung talk about it, the importance of collaboration, right? So the employee and customer engagements that are going and driving this more collaborative in-person and virtual interactions, and how we can go and make it into one seamless experience. Recently, I just got a customer who was talking, right? Like, let's say if we have 3 people working and 2 are at office and the third one is working from home, how the person gets some notification that they can come to office and they can do a right collaborative meeting, right? So big area of focus around that business productivity. The third element which we are finding suddenly in post-COVID, it was there before COVID also, but with COVID and post-COVID, we are seeing a huge focus around it, is the focus around ESG, and which is focusing around the financial imperatives. So again, the investor trends towards sustainable and ESG focused portfolios have been extremely key focus, right? And the last one, if you see, as all our key corporations are doing, the focus around the decarbonization, right? So companies are all going and putting aggressive goals around carbon neutrality, around 2025, 2030, 2040 goals, and that's been a key focus. So with all of these, what we are finding is that we still go to the basic daily challenges which we are finding in terms of how we go and measure, analyze, and do a resolution of this inherent conflict between the priorities, right? And it comes down into 4 key elements, right? The elements is, the first focus is around the lack of connectivity. So we are seeing all these buildings, whether today we have a lot of greenfield buildings and brownfield buildings, but the connectivity is focused around how can we go and have this diverse system technologies which are a bit aged, go and integrate that, and the challenges on how we can go and aggregate and bring it into a single dashboard. That's been one of the key focuses. The next key area which we see a lot now is with the conflicts of data overloads, right? So there's a lot of data in the buildings with the different discrete systems, how we can go and take that data and address the right elements of creating baselines, right? So that we can go and drive a proactive action. The third element is the focus around how we go and put a focus around progress tracking and reporting, right? So if we can go and put a hardline tracker and a method and a process, we can go and see how we are going and achieving these key aggressive KPI goals. And then the last focus, as you heard Wilung also talk, right? Today, buildings have this challenge of balancing this key focus around occupant wellness and sustainability, right? So currently, if you see, we have different legislations in different countries which are focused around. In Singapore, it's Green Mark. In Australia, it's Neighbors. And now that's getting compelled with these different wellness agencies like the Wellbeing standard, the reset standards. So that balance is very important, right? How do we go and do this is one area where we want to go and put the focus, right? So with this key framework, how we as JCI today are thinking is we wanted to put a framework which we call, which you saw in our video, which was presented, was the focus around how we are going and creating an open end connectivity network so that we can go and connect these different buildings, and we are calling it our OpenBlue Healthy Building. And our OpenBlue Healthy Building actually has three key elements. The focus around Healthy Planet, which is the sustainability and the net zero goals, which all these companies are going and putting. The second area is the healthy places. One of the key challenges in that is today buildings are running at bare minimum loads with less amount of occupants in a hybrid environment, which we heard. And then the last one element is how we can go and manage the people, right? So driving all these three things is what the intersection which we are thinking to create in our products and solutions, right? Which I'll go and demonstrate today. And the next thing which we wanted to do is, right, while we are going and creating this framework, we wanted to make sure that we come across as future-proof and agile, which you heard from CBRE also, the focus about agility, the focus about how we can become scalable, focus about how we are flexible, and then it needs to have an AI-infused roadmap, right? So if you are going and investing in all these technologies, it needs to have a roadmap so that we can adapt as we all go back to work. So with that, we go into each key elements quickly. And the first focus is around healthy people. So healthy people is very focused around how we are going and driving our clean air and the health and safety, driving productivity, driving high performance teams, ensuring the comfort and the wellness, ensuring peace of mind, driving personalized experiences, focusing around the engagement, and then focusing around the talent retention. The next one is focus around all the assets. Today, when we are going and trying to integrate these different discrete assets, it becomes extremely important that we can go and optimize the performance of our customers, buildings, assets, all that element, right? So it's focused around capital planning, space optimization, focused around performance, asset performance, operational performance, how we are going and running the buildings in different hybrid modes, with this less occupancy, with some countries opening through a lockdown and some in completely lockdown. So the flexible building and operating mode suddenly become extremely important. Focus around how we are creating that frictionless security experience, response, and compliance. You heard the word compliance, what Wellbeing also talked about. And then the resilience and the future readiness, right? So that's becoming another hot topic which we are finding. And the last one is around healthy planet, right? So healthy planet, that's all focused around how we are going and driving our customers' sustainability goals and the community health, right? So these are all the decarbonization goals which are focused around energy usage, how we are going and cutting down the wastage, water usage, the carbon neutrality goals, focused around the business reputation, increasing the sustainability reporting, and then how do we maximize the return on the green investments. So with that, right, what we as JCI are planning to do is we are trying to put this balanced approach, right? So we are calling it our OpenBlue Sustainable Healthy Buildings Framework, right? So if you look at this framework, currently it has all the three elements of people, place, and planet. And under the people element, it's focused around what we are doing in occupant health and wellness, which is focused around what we are doing with clean air, personal wellness, comfort spaces. Under the healthy places, we have gone and broken it into three segments, right? So one is around the security, which we heard, safety and security. So how we can have a frictionless experience, safe and sanitized. The second area is focused around the health. All these assets, because they're running at bare minimum load, how we can have the right operational efficiency, the reliable operations, and the right amount of space and asset management. And then the process part of it, right, which is focused around energy optimization, compliance, and water management part of it. And the last one which we have gone and put is the carbon neutrality, carbon neutral, and the sustainable reporting framework under the healthy planet. So now what I'll do is I will take you into a simulation of what we find in a typical building today, right? So today what's happening is post-COVID, today we have gone and connected more than billions of data and more than 2,000 buildings in the portfolio in our OpenBlue platforms. And what we are learning is today, if you look at this example, right, this is an example of an occupant. A typically building is designed for roughly 15 CFM or 15 liters per second, right, per person. Now, what we are finding with COVID is, and with our hybrid working environment, like especially in a commercial environment earlier, we used to have people coming 7 a.m. and going at 7 p.m. at a constant fixed type of load. Now people are coming based on demand, right? So it's no more the concept of time schedule based controls. The concept is changing more into occupancy based HVAC demand controls, right? So in this case, what's happening is that if we have one occupant sitting in the building which has been designed for 15 liters per second, and let's say we want to go and over design it by bringing better infection disease control. So in that case, I'm going and pumping in more amount of outside air. So as I'm pumping in more amount of outside air, it has a direct impact in the healthy people, right? Under the healthy people, from an occupant health perspective, people are extremely happy, right? So it sits in our best category. When I go under the healthy places category, the operating cost goes high, right? Because now you're bringing in more amount of outside air. So you need to cool and heat the building accordingly, right? Of course, it comes with a lower asset life because your assets are running well, and the equipment downtime is high because it's running higher. The return on investment is extremely good because the air is fresh. Of course, it comes when I go into the healthy planet element, the energy consumption goes over the roof, right? Because you're bringing in more amount of air. It is an ease in doing a wellness certification, but when we are going and talking about sustainable net zero goals, it becomes quite difficult, right? Because now you're bringing in that high amount of air. Now, if we go in the other side of the pendulum, right? So currently, this is the scenario where today buildings can be in case of industrial facilities, right? Where we want to control production losses. We want to go and have that scenario where we want to pump in more amount of fresh air. Then the second scenario is where we are now going and taking a conservative approach. Buildings are all in lockdown. It's bare minimum amount of people, and I want to only focus on bringing less amount of air. So in this case, I'm having a good in occupant health. My operating cost is low. My asset life is very good. My equipment downtime is on the lower end. Return on investment is high. Energy consumption is low because I'm bringing in less amount of outside air. It becomes difficult in getting a wellness certification. And then in terms of carbon neutrality goals, it's quite easy, right? So what I'm trying to show in this example is this: today, in the past, buildings were designed with all these fundamentals. We used to call it demand control ventilation. Right now, in demand control ventilation, buildings were never designed to go and perform in loads like 10% and 15%, which today we are going and finding, right? And the behavior of this disbalance of the occupant behavior is the other element, right? So we are trying to solve this problem by going and putting models which can go and balance this clean air element with the sustainability element. With that, I'll open it for a poll, and then I'll go detailed into the solutions. Doris, can you open the poll, please? Doris?
Yeah, I already launched the poll.
Okay, thank you. I can't see it, so I just need a bit of your guidance here.
No problem. No problem. So please give us your feedback. This is a multiple choice. And we will end the poll in 5 seconds. Okay, back to you, Samit.
Thank you, Doris. So what we'll do now is we'll focus on how we are going as JCI to solve this problem, right? So the way we are doing is we have one of our key OpenBlue Spotlight, which we call our enterprise management solution. So this is very much focused around how do we go and manage and monitor the different data sets from these different discrete systems in terms of equipment and systems and bring it into a single pane of glass? How do we focus around the energy insights and optimize the consumptions? How do we focus around the maintenance management and create a seamless tenant experience? So if you see this whole concept, the way we are thinking, the way we are doing it in JCI is we are putting it into three key elements. The first element of starting with it is around the connected assets, right? Where we want to focus around the sustainability and the operational efficiency, which is today one of the key asks which we are hearing from all our customers in the building. The second key element is once we have done the connected, we want to focus in how do we go and optimize it, right? So remote operations suddenly has become one of the big asks which I'm getting in this region, right? It comes from India, China, Australia, Singapore, every country, every customers are saying, give me a wave so that I can bring in multiple buildings and go and do it remotely and operate it in the most efficient way, right? So through the AI models. And then the elements of how we are going and focusing around the occupant wellness and the business productivity. We have gone and put some key software applications which are focused around those two key elements. So what are we doing in terms of this single pane of glass? Our OpenBlue Enterprise Manager today is focused to drive our ESG and operational goals, which are focused around how do we improve the property valuation, the green investments, the tenant revenue, and the occupant productivity. So what we have done is we have made it like small Lego blocks, right? So the first module, which we call, is focused around the sustainability and the tenant value. Then we have modules which are focused around operational and operational as a competitive advantage, right? Focused around the space utilization and then how we can ensure a secure and a future-proof technology. So the way we have done this is it can be done all as one or it can go in stages, right? So it's completely modular, and the focus is around today based on the number of buildings which we have connected, right? And today, if I talk about our portfolio, the agnostic portfolio sits as 80% of our installed base, which when we are going and pulling buildings out of the portfolio are non-JCI buildings, right? We are pulling buildings out of third-party, different BMS systems and trying to pull it all in a single pane of glass. So the focus is around, we are seeing energy savings around 30%. We are seeing a big focus around utilization savings around 10%, carbon footprint reduction around the 20 to 40%, depending on the data sets of that building. How we are seeing focus around the clean air and how we are reducing the risk in the infections, focus around how we are reducing the maintenance spend, command and control, which is helping in going and charging premium leasing rates, and then driving with this remote operations, right? Like buildings running in this different mode, how we can help our front end people who are managing the FM staff to increase their productivity, right? Just by giving them some insights. So we are seeing roughly around 40% improvement around that. And then the realization on the ROI. So with that, like what we have done is we have put a complete framework, right? So, and this is how we see the avoided emissions for Johnson Controls technology and services. So when we look at it from a commercial angle, right? The 17% of the saving comes today from a typical BAS, right? The BS means building automation system. Then advanced BS is where we are going and writing the new algorithms which are missing, which are based on system based. Then focused around integrated BAS, where we are connecting the different building systems and the different BAS and driving efficiency. Then having the right measurements tools on energy information system, putting fault detection and diagnostics, and then going and putting all these AI models of optimization, which I'll go and demonstrate right now. So this is the first key AI model which has been quite popular today, and this has been very much focused around this demand-based HVAC control, right? Which is more focused on, gone are the days of running the building on a time schedule. We are looking at things, parameters coming from the weather forecast, looking at the different comfort constraints. And what this model is going and saying is, if there is less occupancy, it doesn't make any sense to go and run the building at a 22.5 set point. The system automatically goes and adjusts itself based on the model learning and says if there's less occupancy, it goes and makes the set point running at maybe 24 or a 25 to go and still go and drive the conditions. what it does in a nutshell, it goes and reduces the amount of airflow, and then it has a direct impact in our energy savings. The second one, which has been globally we have been the first to go and do this, is the balance which I just showed you, right? When I was showing you the simulation, the balance on how we are going and managing the indoor air quality with the balancing energy impact. So this has been a very popular model and will be very powerful because every customers, as we heard from Loon, are looking at the balance of wellness with sustainability. And the way we are trying to do it is we are looking at the occupancy as a key element. So we want to understand how many people are there in the building, and that can come from multi sources. It can come from cameras, it can come from zone CO2 sensors, VOC sensors. Any of the sensor telemetry can go and give that insight to us. The other one is the weather patterns, and based on that, what we are doing is we are going and playing around with the ventilation rates, the supply air temperatures, putting disinfection technologies like UV lights and EC right filtration, and then we are playing with our zone airflow, energy consumption, and infection risk. So the way we are doing it is the model goes and tells us is if a building is very much focused around more clean air, then it will have a higher infection risk score. Of course, it will come at a higher energy cost. Then you have the second option where we take a balanced approach, right? So where we are going and having the infection risk going down and it's coming with the energy cost going down. And then the third approach is where buildings are in lockdown and we still want to keep the building running at a bare minimum, where you are seeing that the energy cost is at bare minimum and it's sacrificing a bit of our infection risk score. So the way we do it is we have gone and created a complete healthy, sustainable, healthy building dashboard, and it gives us the overall health of the building, right? So you can have all your different buildings in the portfolio here, and it gives you the scoring based on people, places, and planet, right? So all the three elements. So places is focused around the operational efficiency, people is focused around their productivity, planet is focused around the net zero goals. And we have tried to integrate all these three. And then based on that, what happens is it gives auto recommendations. So let's say it's telling poor air quality, and based on that recommendation, the system identifies, okay, there's an air quality anomaly, and then we want to go and drill down. So it goes and drills down automatically, and then it tells you, okay, in this space, the infection risk is 68, the indoor air quality is 75, the space is only utilized 78, right? It means we don't have a lot of people, right? And based on that, it gives you the recommendations. Do we want to go more aggressive, or do we want to be a bit conservative to go and take the recommendation in that space, right? Do we do a balanced AI model, or do we just focus more around the clean air? So with that, what I wanted to show you was we have gone and especially we have invested in the air side, going and putting the right amount of UV disinfection. And this is something which we have just gone and tested in a lot of our buildings, right? Post UV installation, right? Before and after, the impact on the surface bacteria swab sampling has been drastic, right? It goes down straight from 705 to 4. And then when we did a surface fungus swab sampling procedure, we got the same results, right? So they were very effective at 99% and high effectiveness, right? So the clean air of how we are bringing the disinfection technologies are playing a key impact. So what then this does is, right, why I showed you that is based on the recommendation, then it gives you exactly, it points you, right? You have two options. Option one, do you want to go and take the option one of pulling in a high occupant score, or do you want to take a balanced score? And then we can go and select that, and based on that, it goes and the building goes and adapts to it and automatically goes and works. I get this question is, right, when we have gone and done this model, how long it takes to go and learn this model? It's very efficient. We can go and take last year's data and reprocess this whole model and make it learn extremely fast. The next area which I wanted to touch quickly is the focus around, once we have done all these AI models, we want to go and put the focus around how do we go and optimize it. So we have gone and had a solution which we call our OpenBlue Central Utility Plant. It's very much focused around taking an approach of a predictive cost optimization. So it looks at the different energy sources, and we have gone and put a model which goes, and it's called the model Predictive Control, which goes and optimizes the entire chiller plants. And what we are finding today is all our chiller plants, when we go and look in our buildings, they are running at roughly 10%, max to 30%, right? That's what we are finding. So there's a huge potential in how we can go and optimize this, leveraging this, our central utility plant algorithm, the AI algorithm. The next one, which is focused around how do we now come into the people element, right? So what we have gone and done is we have gone and designed a solution which is very much focused around our social distancing and our contact tracing, and it focuses around the space and the workflow advisor. So what we are doing here is we are powered in this solution. We go and look at all the movements, and based on the movements, we can go and make decisions on cleanliness. We can go and make decisions on utilization. We can go and make decisions on contact tracing and social distancing. So we call this entire application our location manager. I've just added a couple of screenshots just to give you a real-time preview of that. The left-hand side shows you the overview dashboard where you can see in real time how you're going and doing your social distancing. The second one is a flow view, which tells you, right, whether we are going and maintaining it. And then we can do separate scenario plannings, right, in case how we want to have this hybrid working environment. We heard from Loon the importance of these process planning. So we have gone and automated and digitized that whole process. And then the last element is focused around the contact tracing. So in case somebody has got something, we can go within the built environment. So we have a lot of agencies today externally, which are using QR code to go and do that. We have gone and created a complete within the built environment, a way of going and doing accurate contact tracing, which helps us in doing our cleanliness also. Then if we move from there, the last one which I just wanted to cover is our Occupant Experience app. This app is very much focused around those experiences which we talked about, parking access, and the food delivery. So we have gone and created a mobile experience here, right, where we can go and focus around comfort, reserve, how do we navigate from A to B, how do we focus on frictionless access, so we can make the phone as the badge in that case. How do we focus on auto syncing the calendars so that we are extremely collaborative in this new hybrid environment. Focus around how we can have health updates in terms of announcements, and then help desk, right? So we have integrated it all into one seamless experience. And the way we do this is, you can see an example here where we call it re-enter, reimagine, where you are seeing we are re-entering through our in a secure way using the phone as the badge. We are then using the phone to go and navigate to go and find people, places, and the different things which we want to do. The same thing is helping us to go and book the space, and then it is helping us to go and reconnect, right? So it's syncing up with all these Outlook and the different calendars, so it's not a double work, it auto syncs it. And then finally it's helping us in doing things like flex storage or doing this food delivery in case whether the delivery has come, or doing parking access, right? So we have tried to integrate all this. So just last to conclude, right, like what we are seeing with all these solutions, right, that the trends today is more focused around how do we sustain the focus on the healthy buildings, and it's all coming down around the future readiness. So future readiness is focused around how much of indoor air quality sensors are there. Do we have focus around flexible facilities, frictionless access? So that's becoming one key box right now which we are hearing. The second one is focused around healthy as the new green, right? So we have partnered very close right now with the Wellbeing Institute, and we are trying to add all the well legislations in our OpenBlue solutions. So how we can help buildings which are going for well gold ratings or well platinum ratings, how we can help them ease that certification process, because we are trying to put all our modules which are compliant with that, right? So that's becoming our key focus. Then the third is focus around the people, right? The productivity and the experience, which is either through a mobile experience or through the UI experience of single pane of glass, the 330-300 principle. And then finally, it's the sustainability, right? How we are helping in terms of ESG reporting and helping in doing that balance, right, between clean air, carbon neutrality, and the experience, right? And driving the buildings in this optimum demand-based HVAC systems, right? So currently we are focused, it's broader than HVAC. I'm just giving you HVAC as just one example here. With that, thank you, and we are open to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Wei Long and Samit, for your insight and solution introduction. And a kind reminder to all the attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to type your question in the chat box. And we've already received some questions. I think the first one is for Wei Long. So what are some of the key considerations behind building operators supporting well-being?
Oh, it's a really good question. I think the community as a large, buildings are a vital part of our community. They form the nexus where a lot of our employees work, and so in today's world, the community that we are in a building, it's a very vibrant ecosystem for where as building managers, as they add value to the work that they do, a key value differentiator is how building managers can support the well-being of the occupants and the comfort of that. And well-being is such a large, it encompasses so many areas, right? And really the ability to provide a safe physical environment for them is one of the first key consideration. Obviously, there's also other key considerations where building operators or building managers create the right spaces for their occupants or for their tenants to exercise, to be comfortable. And I think, and particularly, I think also in terms of consideration of how the building operators provide a healthy environment. I think those are some of the key considerations for building operators to think about when they consider well-being. And it's such a key word these days for everyone.
Thank you so much, Wei Long. And we have another question. I think that one is for Samit. What is the amount of data needed to run Johnson Controls AI models?
So that's a very good question, right? So currently we are doing this multi-ways, right? So if we have a building which already has significant amount of data, we can go and process that entire data which they have and leverage that data to learn the models. So we can use that, and that helps the model to learn faster. If it's a brand new building, roughly what we are finding, it takes around 1 to 2 months to go and learn the model before it starts throwing the insights and learning this different variable demand behavior.
Okay, thank you. And another question, I think this one is for Wei Long again. Could you please share CBRE's view on smart building technologies?
It's a great question. Obviously, this is quickly evolving, but we do see that smart building technologies are playing a key part, particularly as the world changes so rapidly and is really focused on some of the trends that Samit picked up on. Obviously, there's a lot of focus and talk in the media around net zero buildings, decarbonization efforts, sustainability, and really to achieve some of this realistic goals and goals that we need to achieve in our lifetimes. The use of smart building technologies will really help us get there. I think the advances in building technologies and hence the word smart, using smart AI, machine language, these things are not reserved for the supercomputers of tomorrow. They are now readily available to run buildings, and using some of these technologies that were sort of key concepts in the past is now really a reality for buildings. And having these technologies, will really help to advance, number one, productivity, efficiency, but also optimize a lot of the buildings of today and tomorrow and of yesterday, in how they are meeting some of the key trends that are coming up, and really help to sort of diagnose problems even before they occur. And so we're starting to get into the realm of predictive technologies. And really, what could have seemed impossible a few years ago is very much possible today. And so these are the key things that I believe are really going to help advance and evolve and obviously pivot very quickly. And that's how we see smart building technologies playing very quickly. And it's becoming such a key component of what investors and occupiers are looking for.
Okay, thank you. And we have more questions coming. So this one, I think probably for Samit. Is there any measurement of carbon emission indication, how to reduce CO2 and building heat emission for the AI?
Yeah, so currently what we are doing is, right, and we are learning it based on the number of buildings which we are connecting, right? And what it's leading us is we are getting behaviors of how the different baselines are, right? So currently let's say with all these buildings connected, it is telling us, like, if it is a commercial building located in X city, we know if it is, we look at their net lettable area and we look at what are the assets in that building, and we can tell, right, in that building based on the legislation, right? So every country today has a legislation attached to it. Like, let's say in Australia, it's neighbors, and we know, like, if it's a neighbor's 5-star building, we know this much amount of kilowatt hour it consumes. And we go and in our OpenBlue, we have gone and looked at the different microservices, right? How much the air is consuming, how much the water is consuming. And now we have gone and built out the best practice models based out of it. So we know, right, like if a building right now in India with this much occupancy, if it is less, this is how the good, better, best model of net zero would look like, So I would say is a lot of model collections which we have done over the last significant, I would say 10 to 15 years, which we have gone and collected, and that's helping us right now. All that data is helping us to go and give this forecasting that how the different buildings will behave based on the decarbonization steps which they are taking, each customers are taking.
Okay, the next question, a little bit long. How can this technology be made available for healthy communities where IT is not skilled? Do you think risk management will be addressed with smart building technology?
Loon, you want to take this?
Yeah, I'll try.
I can also do it, right? Maybe you chip in and then I'll chip in. Yeah,
sure. I think that so let me break the question down to a couple of questions, and hopefully we'll get to the answer. So from my perspective, and just replaying the question, first and foremost, I'd like to address the risk management part through smart building technologies. I do think that a lot of the risks that we see in managing buildings today or operating buildings today can be managed proactively using smart building technologies. Obviously, with any advances and any new technologies being introduced, it does introduce a new risk. So some of the new risks we see with smart building technologies is obviously cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is a key area that many people are working on. But it's also an area whereby a lot of other technologies have been working on for a very long time. And so I see that risk being mitigated by a lot of the advances in cybersecurity that other teams and other technology providers have been working on. The other part of the question was around how can, if I understand this properly, or I replay the question, is how does this work in communities where IT is not scaled up? I think from my perspective, this is where it depends on how much investments we're looking at to think about where the best return is on. In most places, it's really a choice between productivity returns versus operational returns or hard savings, as we call it, right, in the finance world. And so in areas where the IT infrastructure may not be scaled out, you will have to make certain choices. You won't be able to deploy the full suite of technologies, for example, but you still can deploy some of that, which maximizes your return on whatever investments you make. And as the infrastructure evolves, you are then enabled to make further investments as the infrastructure in that specific area develops. Hopefully that answers the question in the audience. Samit, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, so I would just add some elements on technology, right? So I'll give a couple of examples, right? So we have recently doing a big industrial park, very similar. It's not a community, but very similar, very spread out. The challenges of IT is always there. But today there are a lot of technologies where we can go, like let's say LoRa and those sort of technologies, where we can go and take the data of those different discrete edge devices and pull it into our OpenBlue application, right? So that delimits a lot of that IT infrastructure which we are worried about. The second area where I would say is, right, whenever we talk about going and applying this in a community level, it's very much focused around what are the different use cases which we are going and driving. So when we are talking about a smart community, and we were talking about this with one of the key clients recently, we were talking about an experience. They had a community which was multi-story residential, there was a school, and then they were talking about how do we integrate and make it into a complete seamless experience, right? So then the question came as, okay, when they have a school, what sort of data sets I'm getting out of that school, right? Are we talking about, the students' collaboration there? Are we talking about the different assets which we are going and optimizing in that school? So the basic step is understanding what are the different data sets available in that community, then going and defining it into a use case. So let's say the use case can be an experience driven on smart parking, experience driven on a school experience, right? And then going and integrating all these different data sets and driving an outcome through our OpenBlue solutions, right? So I would say we are completely scalable, but we have to define the elements of how we ingest the data. Can we leverage some of these easy technologies which in a spread out facility like LoRa and these open technologies, which doesn't need a lot of heavyweight IT infrastructure, and then go and pull all the data sets in our OpenBlue to go and drive the outcome. Hope it addresses.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe we have time for a final question. We still have more, but even if we couldn't answer all the questions online, we will definitely send email to you to address your questions. So I see more than 2 participants. They're asking about system integration. For example, this one is asking, can this application be connected to other equipment if there are various brands in the building? Samit, I think this is a question for you.
I'll take it, right? So today we are completely agnostic. So we can go and suck the data out of all the different open source systems. So BACnet, Modbus, OPC. So the short answer is yes, we can go and pull the data from all the different systems as long as we know the different protocols. The way we are trying to address this problem is under our OpenBlue, we are going and building something which we call our OpenBlue Bridge. And in our OpenBlue Bridge, just to help all our customers, because today this integration problem was a big global problem, right? We used to go and invest so much amount of hardware to go and do it. So the way we are trying to address this problem is we are going in our OpenBlue Bridge and building a complete software element of integration of all these different protocols. So today, when we want to go and ingest data from these different systems, whether it's lift, we heard lift is becoming hot, or picking the lighting system, picking the things from the parking system, the building management system, we can go and just put this bridge connector, which is a software gateway, and then it goes and ingests all this data into our OpenBlue platform, right? And then we go and drive all these outcomes which we talked under our healthy building framework.
All right, thank you. I think we are about reaching the top of the hour. Samit, back to you to wrap it up.
Thanks. We got some excellent questions from the audience. We will make sure that the questions which we couldn't answer, we will revert back and reply to all those questions in this. And thank you for the participation. Wei Loong, I really take the privilege for your presence in this great webinar, and thank you for being with us to do this jointly with us, right? Appreciate your presence.
No, thank you for the invite, and thank you to the audience for listening to us today. Hope everyone keeps safe and
yeah, thank you.